put out a poll on his page. Oh, this was a few days ago, I think. About how much time would you say you analyze the sound of your system rather than just listening to it? And you see my answer, right? 50% plus. But this is my job, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm supposed to figure this stuff out, so you don't have to, hopefully, right? If I'm crazy, it's hopefully I can give you answers about, okay, this is what it does, this is what it doesn't do, so you can just enjoy it.
Yeah.
What do you guys put? What amount of time would you spend? Would you say? Yeah. So how much time do you spend analyzing your system versus actually listening to it?
Mine's 10. 10%. Because I set it up, and then the rest of the time I just enjoy it.
You're the Ron Popeil. You set it and forget it, right?
I'd rather be enjoying it, you know. I mean, but in all fairness, I think Joe truly enjoys digging into it and trying this and changing this, and that's just never been me.
Yeah.
You know.
Honestly, I'm also with you on that. I'm 10%. The only times when I really need to change something is if the wife can't operate it because the unit is doing something weird. Yeah. And if he keeps on contacting me while I'm doing other work, I'll be like, oh, God damn it. All right, I'll just switch the AVR, which I'm lucky in that I have like 8 AVRs and or processors in the house right now. It's possible. But I mean, if one of you guys spent like $3,000 on one of these things and all of a sudden you're having a HDMI handshake issue with your, direct TV, the big game is on, Sunday football, blah, blah, blah. Like it keeps turning off or keeps switching. Like the Yamaha would just switch inputs out of the blue because the CEC was just working a little too well. And all of a sudden, the Apple TV woke up from being asleep and then boop, switched to the Apple TV or the Roku. So for me, it's like 10% as well. Like, unless I'm really doing a project, or the very first time setting something up, I'll do that for a few days. And then it's just like, it's on autopilot. People talk about
I'm reviewing something. Of course, I've got to set it up and recalibrate it and everything. But once I'm done, man, I just want to enjoy it and see what it sounds like.
And I unlike a lot of you guys that have a dedicated space, mine's in the living room, which is also a great thing because that TV, that system is on like 7-8 hours a day probably. So if I'm reviewing speakers, I just set them up there. Boom. People want to talk about speaker burning, whatever. I don't care. I'll wait like 2 weeks. I'll let the wife do whatever she watches. Boom. Speakers are burned in. Same thing with the TV and all this nonsense. I'm lucky in that fashion. Those Parasound amplifiers are on almost all the time. So I'm glad I got some good amplification just for that situation. But here's something that I thought was interesting. Leadership push. No wonder Atmos engineers don't all put out great content. It's way too much work. Honestly, it is. Like the amount of time I put into what are those songs? Like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes long. Like, good Lord, if I want to try and make a movie scene, just one scene that's like 5 minutes long, like that's going to take a while. If it's an entire 2 hour and a half movie, like I'm thinking months. And like, if a studio was going to like pay for that, let alone allocate that kind of time, because I'm sure they need everything done on a timeline as far as their release, if they're going to do a digital release or like an actual theater release. So yeah, there's a lot of aspects of getting good Atmos that we have to look at.
Reverend Sliss says, when I hear a weakness in my system, I have to fiddle with it. Talking to Joe's made me spend hours in multi-QX, caused him to move the surrounds. Yeah. So, Aaron, what would be your answer to that poll?
A few years ago, it would have been like 50% or more, but not so much anymore. So it's changed. I was just kind of curious I was actually surprised at the numbers that people were putting. I thought a lot of people would just say like basically 0%, like hardly any of the time, but a lot of people would put more than that. I was surprised.
Yeah, 10%, zero.
Think about the crowd that we're appealing to. I mean, these are enthusiasts. I would expect them to put some effort into their system versus just plug it in, don't do any kind of calibration, don't do any kind of setup.
So I was coming at it more from the perspective of like, once you set it up, set it and forget it, you're done. Right. And I expected a lot of people would be that way, but I found out they're not. And a lot of people are actually like, they still tinker with it. I enjoy it. I mean, 25% is a good bit of time, that's an hour for every 4 hours that you're not listening.
Right.
So I just find that interesting, but it's kind of cool. Like I've been doing more polls lately to kind of get an idea of, okay, who's watching my videos, like
it'll help you get an idea of like what content to make too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think I spend a lot of time messing around with the system because number one, I enjoy it, but also I'm hoping that other people don't have to spend that much time, right? They can just enjoy it if I've done the work.
You want to be the guy that's just like, hey, try this, and then the people try it and they're like, oh my god, it's so much better.
Well, that's why they ask, right? Hey, how should I do this? I'll be like, dude, I've tried that and I've done all these experiments. Just skip the hassle. I'll tell you the answer. Okay, this is the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. 10. Let's see. 0% is 10%. So no amount. These people don't spend any time analyzing the system.
Yeah.
10%.
Forget it.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much of this, right? So a big portion of this, what?
I mean, that's close to half.
Yeah,
half people are 25% or more. Like that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
I did not expect that.
But then if you think about how much money you're spending, maybe it's in relation to how much money they're spending. If they're spending a good lot, a lot of money, then they're going to, they have a lot of high end stuff. Like even that RCam, it's a little bit more work than the Denon or the Marantz.
Mm-hmm. Could it also be that maybe you expect more from your system, and that's what I've been trying to get at with people is like, if Atmos is selling you that it can do this and that, I'm telling you it cannot, right? It cannot place something inside of your space, but that's
inside your head. Inside your head. You can't make it inside your head.
But knowing that, right?
Sorry.
Can you make it sound as good as possible for what it can do, right? Can you make it sound like it's in that dome? Does it sound cohesive when something moves around? Does it sound like it skips from one thing? Or does it sound very smooth? Does it sound like it's making a perfect circle? You can optimize for what it can do so you can get the best possible experience, right? So I think setting the expectation is important.
That's really the thing. I think a lot of it is it's like people are like, oh, I got this 512 Dolby Atmos soundbar, or what I remember driving and listening to you guys talk about an 11.5.9 soundbar or something retarded like
ridiculous.
That. I think managing expectations is the best thing that we can all try to do when we're explaining this to people. Like, okay, yeah, it's a 7-channel AVR. You're going to run 512. Don't try to believe everything Dolby's marketing team is telling you. Like, things are going to sound a little weird. But you won't know that unless you have a bigger system. So it's always kind of this weird back and forth. And I got this great comment. Oh, wait, what we got here? A tweak?
No, he's just reverencing him saying that he's on a budget, right? So, the time he spends maybe can get them better sound. Whereas maybe if you have an unlimited budget, you just go and buy more expensive.
Buy the trim off and then you're done.
Do it for me.
Maybe those 0%ers were the people with the trim off. Just boom, do it. Had it done, right? That could be.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Well, and two, you got to think even like the way that question is framed. It says how often do you spend analyzing your system? Doesn't necessarily say tweaking your system. That's the way I interpreted it.
Okay.
That's
somebody else maybe.
Well, that's the way I meant it. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, somebody else may be going,
Analyze. What do you mean analyze?
Should I add another subwoofer to my system? And that's analyzing it. So
that's true.
I'm not real sure. Like,
well, based on the replies, I think most people understood what I was going after. But yeah, that's a good point. But I think
if the comments kind of follow that, then you're probably good.
Yeah. Where's Reggie at? I'm sure he's gonna be like, if you chose 50% plus, that means it's too analytical. Those speakers. That's your problem.
Maybe like that. Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, I may do a video, a video follow up. Just be like, hey,
here's
what are you guys thinking? Right.
After every Monday podcast, we have an after show. If you're interested in joining us, go to patreon.com/daily HiFi.